So I'm sure as many of you know, the Georgia Guidestones were vandalized and taken down by a construction crew after somebody either planted a bomb or somebody blew it up. One of these stone slabs. And one of the commandments of the Antichrist that was written on the Georgia Guidestones was maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Now, to do this, what that would mean is that 90% of the human race, as it is now, would be gone. So, there was an interesting question that I asked my grandfather when I was 10 to 12 years old, and that was, Grandpa, what is the deal with the people that are obsessed with, like, the planet, the climate, like, why do they think that the world is ending? And he said, well, they think carbon gets in the atmosphere, and that's what's heating up the planet, and that's what's going to make the Earth uninhabitable. I'm like, okay. So, the interesting thing that comes next is, well, I asked him, wait, hold on, and I put two and two together, and I said, well, Grandpa, don't I breathe in oxygen and then exhale carbon? And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, but that goes to trees. And he's like, they don't care. And I'm like, okay, so what am I supposed to do? Stop breathing to save the planet? He's like, yeah, they want you dead. And for a while, I thought maybe this was just a conspiracy theory, but until 2020, that was. And then all of my suspicions were confirmed true. When people were locked in their homes for months on end, having nothing to do, one of the things that came out was, well, the lockdowns and nobody driving their cars has like cleared the skies and it's reduced the carbon emissions. And I said, okay, this is kind of odd. And then there were things that I were hearing which have been taken down by the WEF, as the World Economic Forum, a video saying you will own nothing and you will be happy. And my suspicions of this being a globalist takeover were actually pretty much just confirmed true after all of that. But one of the videos that I watched recently was by a guy named Keith Woods, who asked the question, is the left a Gnostic death cult? So, and I'm not going to use the term left because I don't really like to use like politically divisive terms like when I'm addressing people in posts or on videos on YouTube. But I'm addressing it this one time to actually expand on what he's saying. I would not really call these people leftists. I would call these people transhumanists, because not everybody who may be a leftist or maybe on the left may be a transhumanist, or just because somebody is associated with some leftist causes doesn't make them a leftist. So I would be calling these people transhumanists in this way. So is the left a Gnostic death cult? So before we go into that question, we gotta ask ourselves, what is a Gnostic? So Gnostics were they were a heretical Christian. They were a heresy within the early Christian church. Even though actually Gnostics were around before the coming of Christ, the first coming, they were declared a heresy because of their teaching of Jesus Christ, which was that the God of the Old Testament is this evil being, and that Jesus Christ is that Jesus Christ is good, but that Jesus Christ was kind of like this lower God, and that that the God of the Old Testament was like the evil demiurge. And Gnostics believe that salvation is attained through the pursuit of knowledge and through the liberation of your body. So Gnostics are in some sense a dualist. Gnostics are, in every sense of the word, a dualistic religion, which is the idea that the world is separated into the material and that the world is material and spiritual, but that the material is evil and that the spiritual is good. This is directly contrary to the traditional Christian, really it's the traditional Catholic understanding of what is good and what is evil. So the Catholic understanding, and what is traditional Christian Catholic understanding, is that the material world was once good because it was created. Because the material world has objective good in that was created good because it was created by God. But it became corrupted through the sin of Adam. So this is where this is the contrasting opinion of the Gnostics. The Gnostics believe that the material world is evil and that the spiritual world is good. In many ways, there in some similar worldviews have been expressed in Buddhism, and even religions such as Zoroastrianism or other examples of dualistic religions. But we can get into that another time. That's for another video. But basically, the left, or what I would say is the transhumanists, aren't actually, I would say that they're rather anti-Gnostic, because, and like Keith Wood said in his video, they have an aversion to the spiritual and to everything that is of higher virtue, and they have an obsession with the carnal nature that we exhibit, our carnal desires, the material world. They have an obsession with the material world, and they want to live forever. Now, things that are similar between Gnostics and transhumanists are the pursuit of knowledge and the aversion to one of the two dimensions that makes up our humanity. So in our humanity, what gives our life value is both things that exist materially and then our higher spiritual sense, which, you know, in this case, our higher, and when I'm not referring to like Eastern philosophy, I'm not like referring to modern age Eastern philosophies or like New Age I'm not referring to like New Age mysticism or anything. When I say like higher spiritual sense, I'm talking about, you know, our desire to be with God one day. So transhumanists reject one of the two dimensions that make us human. So this obsession to live forever, their idea is that we're going to be able to upload our brains to computers, and we're going to be able to live forever that way, because they don't believe that there is an afterlife. So in some sense they're anti-Gnostic, but in another sense they share some of the same, they are a direct parallel, or I guess a direct reversal of such, as Keith Woods did say. Now, it's also a modern times Tower of Babel, and there's an interesting point that I actually want to get to, that I actually want to say. So the Tower of Babel was the attempt to reach the heavens without actually following the law of God. So because God became so frustrated with Nimrod, he struck down the tower, and he said, and you know, he split up the people by confusing their language, and that's why it was called Babel. So we're not exactly seeing that today, but that exact scenario, obviously, although, you know, you can argue that maybe, and I mean, there's some conspiracies out there that like that the Tower of Babel wasn't a literal tower, but it was like a Hadron Collider. And although, yes, I do think that maybe the Hadron Collider in CERN might be another attempt at it, or it might be like a different take on it. It's all part of the, you know, the demonic transhuman agenda. But basically what I'm trying to get at is we're seeing something similar to Babel. And when I say Babel, I mean literal Babel. And you're probably going to see the connection when I mention it. So the English language has been literally butchered. And when I say literally, I do mean literally, because the word literally has been changed or has been modified to also mean potentially a figurative context. So you can use the word literally in a figurative context now, according to the Oxford Dictionary. So you're also, once that happened, I think that opened up the floodgates for a lot of other stuff to come about and come to the mainstream more. So, for example, you could say you are one thing, and then be another thing. I'm not going to say exactly what that is, but because I don't want to be censored from YouTube. And people are just supposed to accept this as reality. So there's the trashing of everything that we understood as tradition and as just common sense. But whenever you hear like these politicians, such as Kamala Harris is like the great example. Let me actually quote Kamala Harris, I think, and please quote me. Please say in the comments if I got this right, because I don't have it on me. We have the ability to see unburdened by what has been, and to make the possible actually happen. So, at some point, when you are trying to pursue immortality without actually following higher virtues and pursuing the law of God, you get nothing but babble, which is what politicians like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, especially Joe Brandon, have been doing especially. Alright, but that's all I have for today. Thanks, guys.